El people united will never be defeated. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
In April of 2017, Mayor de Blasio announced a proposal to rezone East Harlem, increasing the building height restriction to 35 stories tall. The last time East Harlem was rezoned, 11% of the African American and 9% of the Mexican communities were permanently displaced. Once again, East Harlem residents are fighting back.
What is it? This is our land! This is our community! This is our land! This is our community!
So maybe 2 years ago or so, there began a series of visioning sessions that were starting to be held around the community that were trying to get to community needs. They were anticipating that there would eventually be a discussion around rezoning. So to get ahead of that, there was a series of visioning sessions to really drive at, like, what are people's experiences with housing, what community needs would we want to see if there in fact were to be a rezoning. And so I think there were like 22 visioning sessions and workshops. And in the course of this, I spoke forcefully about the need for affordable housing. And this is where I met Community Voices Heard members. And it was just a natural fit. They invited me to some of their meetings, and I started attending and started getting involved.
That's right. We want 30% of all housing to be available and accessible for low-income people across the board. And on public land, like what they're looking to do at 111th Street, that baseball field, we want 40% at least.
As a group, we've kind of come up with like some demands. Like, what would we want to see out of a rezoning, right? Like, and much of it is centered around the idea that the community should benefit, right? And specifically, we came up with 3 demands, and that was that 30% of any housing built, whether it's for-profit, non-profit, on any private land, that 30% of those units should be set aside for, so that they would be affordable for low-income people, so that they would meet community needs in that way. The second one is pretty similar, but that's specific to public land, because there has been a lot of discussion about taking public land, putting it into private hands so that we build affordable housing. And so our demand is that 40% of any such units from any such development be set aside to be affordable for low-income people. And then finally, this is one of the densest concentrations of NYCHA properties in the city, and they are kind of left out of this conversation, sadly, or there's potential for them to be left out of that conversation, and we don't want that to be true.
Yeah, my name is Ray Torado, and I'm an East Harlem resident. I've lived here over 55 years, and I am also known as the last tenant standing, which is exactly what's happening. I am the last person in my building, and I've gone through, I've been the last tenant for almost a year and a half, living in the building by myself, where the landlord cut the gas, electricity, water, I mean, everything that could be done to get me out of there, he's done. And in short, I'm still there, we're still fighting.
How can someone that's not living in this neighborhood decide our fate?
I'm of the position, and I think many of us are of the position, that as soon as the city goes about and makes it known that they're thinking about rezoning, that you're almost setting a for sale sign in our community.